2 years ago, I happened to pick up a game called Spiritfarer at my local GameStop, and it has quickly become one of my favorite games of all time, even though the game centers around death. So, why is it my favorite game of all time, even though it centers around such a morbid topic? Let's find out. Spiritfarer released in 2020 by indie Canadian game studio Thunder Lotus and was released across multiple platforms including Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, and PC and has sold over 1 million copies. The game is a 2D management simulator and platformer that boasts a variety of mini-games to play and explore within the world. The game underwent several changes during its initial development, such as the game setting changing from a train to a boat, the characters themselves, and the elimination of many assets. The game was originally inspired by games such as Stardew Valley, Harvest Moon, and Legend of Zelda. The game was meant to be a quick play in which players could complete the storyline in 10 to 15 hours. However, near the end of the development process, the game ended up running roughly around 40 hours long. But what is Spiritfarer and what makes it so interesting? The game centers around death, and that's something that has never changed since the beginning of the game's development. According to head creative director Nicholas Gurin, the team wanted to talk about death from a radically opposite perspective, from an almost antagonistic view. Gurin went on to say, "I knew it was something that worked because it allowed us to create a game in which death is talked about from a common people point of view, of us passing away and our relatives passing away and connections passing away in a much more intimate personal angle." During the game's development, Gurin went on to explore end-of-life facilities, tell his own stories of loss, and even invite his team to share their stories of loss to create a feeling of emotional vulnerability, realness, and rawness, drawing the player into the bittersweet game that encapsulates not only watching a person go through the end of their life, but also how you as the player must deal with their passing. But now, I would like to talk about why I think everyone should play the game known as Spiritfarer. In Spiritfarer, you play as Stella, a woman who must ferry souls around and help them come to terms with dying at the end of their life in a spiritual-like world. Over the course of the game, you explore a world filled with spirits of all different personalities, scattered across a large world filled with different territories that you must explore. Throughout your exploration of the world, you encounter spirits that you seem to have some connection to, although it's not clear how near the early hours of the game. Once encountering a spirit, they board your boat that you ferry across the seas, and once on the boat, the spirit will ask you to build them their own house, complete tasks, and ultimately lead them to the end of their life at the Everdoor. Throughout the game, you connect with multiple spirits that board your boat: Gwen, Atul, Alice, Astrid, Beverly, Giovanni, Bruce, Mickey, Daria, Elena, Gustav, Jackie, Stanley, Buck, and Summer. All spirits have their own unique set of skills and a personality which is radically different from one another. No matter how you may initially feel about a character, you can't help but feel connected to them by the end of their time with you. The game strives and succeeds at creating an intimate and familial feel within and outside the bounds of your boat. Spiritfarer does a great job of creating personalities in their spirits that parallel someone you have most definitely met at some point in your life. In fact, I would even go as far to say that each spirit directly parallels to a presence in your life. Gwen is your best friend, Atul and Summer are family members, Jackie is a coworker, Beverly is a neighbor, Astrid is a peer, and Stanley is a child. But what I think is also cool about Spiritfarer is that even if you don't have one of these presences in your life, the personalities to these presences match a personality of somebody you know in your real life. Let's take Stanley, for example. Stanley is a young child on your boat, and it is said that in his past he died at 8 years old from a terminal illness. Stanley is meant to parallel a child or childlike presence in your life, but let's say you don't have that. Stanley is curious, naive, innocent, funny, quick-witted, compassionate, and creative. And even if you don't know a child or have a child in your life, his personality directly parallels a personality that you probably know. Looking at all 15 characters, I can easily name someone in my life that represents every single one. And I think that's one great thing about Spiritfarer is when you're playing and leading these people to the end of their lives, you're not just thinking about, oh, these are characters in a video game. You're drawing connections to people you know in the real world. And just like people in the real world, they have a different place in your life. Some are strangers, some are close friends, some come and go quickly, some are related to you. Spiritfarer has a ton of parallels, but I think this one is most noticeable, connecting characters within the game to people that you know in real life. I think it's interesting how Spiritfarer nails down these personalities and keeps them so vague that we can apply them to multiple people, and yet so precise that we can look at a character and go, oh, that reminds me of so-and-so. And as you build connections with these characters and they remind you of relationships in your real life, you start to have emotions for the characters. While I was playing this game, I hated the characters sometimes. I got angry, or I cried with them, I bonded with them, just like I would do with a friend or any person in my real everyday life. The game continues to create this feeling of intimacy that bridges the gap between real life and the game, and leaves you thinking about your relationships even after you turn the game off. Even if you don't feel a connection with a character through their personality or actions, you may relate to the character due to how they pass. Gwen and Summer from cancer, Alice from dementia, and many others seemingly have unnamed terminal illnesses. Outside of the characters, Spiritfarer aims to parallel real life by showing that people come and go at different times. Sometimes when you're ready, but most times when you're not. Spiritfarer allows the character to keep a character on the boat for as long as they want. You're never really forced to take a character to the Everdoor and help them end their life, except for one, who leaves whether or not you're ready. It is the one character that you have no bearing on whether they stay or leave. It's only one example, but it hits the player with a piece of reality. And even if you do hold on to the spirits and refuse to let them leave, you can't keep them. They will constantly remind you that they are ready to go, whether or not you are, they are. And they have made peace with leaving you and this world, and now it's up to you to see them to the end and deal with their loss. As the game progresses, you begin to slowly uncover what your life was before you became the Spiritfarer, and you find out that your character, Stella, was an end-of-life nurse, helping patients who were in their final weeks or months of life. Being an end-of-life nurse, it comes to light that all of the spirits you help pass are also people who you helped pass in the real world. This means you are helping these people pass twice, both times equally painful. But I guess I haven't really talked about the process of dying in this game. You guys know that they go on a boat and you get to do fun little tasks and talk with them, but what actually happens when they die? When it is inevitably time for you to lead the spirits to the end, you take them to the Everdoor, a bridge between this purgatory-like area you are in and the afterlife. The Everdoor is described at the beginning of the game, where everything begins and everything ends, and it does indeed fulfill that role throughout you playing the game. The Everdoor heavily differentiates itself from other territories in the game. It boasts a rich red river surrounded by pink and white flora and a large wooden gate, which is where you lead the spirits when their time to pass has come. In fact, many characters, while you are taking them to the end, note that this place is beautiful, that it's calming, that it's tranquil. Maybe that parallels real life, showing that in your final moments, you are filled with beauty, tranquility, and peace, as well as acceptance. This game doesn't really give us a definite answer of where our characters go after they die. At the Everdoor, they are gone in a flash of light, and a constellation of them appears in the sky. That may hint to heaven, that may hint to something else. It may even hint at life just flat out ending. Now, why did I take so much time focusing on the relationships, how they end, and death itself? Because people die. Spiritfarer took a game about death and mixed it with reality and fantastical elements. Characters in the game die through accidents, terminal illnesses, and old age, just like people in real life do. Some die suddenly, some slowly, and even though the concept may be morbid and dark, Spiritfarer allows you to interact with the people you love one last time before passing, which I think plays into a lot of people's wishes. Many people wish they could see their loved ones one more time, but that's not how it works, unfortunately, in real life. But Spiritfarer tastefully plays into this wish and narrative in a beautiful yet sorrowful way. Eventually, you must deal with Stella's death, as it comes to light at the end of the game that Stella is on her deathbed. The game does not disclose why or how Stella is dying, other than that she has a terminal illness and she is in her final moments. But Stella actively fights against death throughout the duration of the game, like so many people do in real life. Death visits her many times throughout the game and tells her to stop running, and that he'll eventually come and collect. However, she continues to run until the end of the game, and in the end, you pass peacefully and on your own terms, leaving your Spiritfarer role behind and finally making peace with the harsh reality you've been fighting the entire game. Through helping others come to terms with death, you therefore come to terms with it yourself. Spiritfarer pulls you in through the entirety of the game, and even near the end you still have this nagging feeling of, I don't want this to end, mimicking life and the inevitable journey we all take. The game forces the player to face death, which is a bold move for a video game, to force the player to interact with such a morbid reality. It's not something most people spend time thinking about, so the fact that the game does it in a way that makes the player not only think, but makes the morbid topic into an enjoyable video game is really incredible. Combined with the fun game design, beautiful soundtrack, and just amazing side quests, the game creates a feeling of longing, a feeling of never wanting it to end, just like a human life. I simultaneously feel like I've said so much about this game, and yet nothing at all to capture how truly beautiful and bittersweet this game is. Spiritfarer aims to accomplish what is so difficult, and that's to face death in a way that isn't absolutely terrifying. Through the lens of the game, you get to see the way death affects individuals without having to experience it in real life. Although Spiritfarer may be relaxing and fun at times, it also makes you think hard about your relationships and eventually the end of your life. It makes you think about the difficult things that you have to come to terms with eventually. It's a beautiful game that encapsulates a wonderful balance between having fun and realizing your reality. Though I know by the end of this video, some may be turned off by that, I'm okay with it. It is a hard reality to face, and most people use video games to escape harsh realities, not play into them. However, Spiritfarer takes you on an emotional journey unlike any other video game I've ever played before. I didn't know what to expect going into this game, but it has now become a source of comfort for me. I invite you all to try your hand at the game if you have the time and mentality to do so, as it may broaden your thoughts on death, loss, grief, and life itself. I hope that through this video you have been able to get a glimpse into the world of one of the most beautiful and sorrowful video games ever made. If you do end up playing this game or have played this game, please let me know your thoughts on it because I would genuinely love to hear it. But that is all for today, and I will see you all next time.